Oh, yeah, so great of you to join us. Okay, so I'll start because I know people will come, they'll join, and we'll, of course, have the replay for members. Okay. Yay, so excited. All right. So, hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to this week's live class. We're talking about building trust through honest communication, transparency, authenticity. And what I'm going to share with you will apply to work settings, but you can just as easily apply them to your social interactions outside of work. Your casual conversations, your coffee chats, whatever it might be. So just keep in mind that there is versatility with these strategies. And while I'm going to show you in the professional context and the executive skills space, you can also use these for your social fluency outside of the workplace. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all, and we will jump right in. Okay, so here we have our presentation. We're going to look at building trust, right, through this transparent, honest communication, which is going to help you with your professional interactions as well as your social interactions in general. Okay. So for those of you who are new and who might not know me yet, I'm Mary Daphne. I'm an executive communication and social fluency coach. I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, almost 20 years, which is crazy to think. It just time flies when you're having fun, I guess. I empower the modern executive and the ambitious international professional who wants to really level up in their careers, who want to expand their networks, who want to get jobs overseas in English-speaking countries like the US, Canada, the UK. And we look at how you can improve your executive skills and your social fluency so that you can not only level up in your careers, but also have better life outcomes, have a richer social network, have closer friends, have, a better relationship with your loved ones, know how to actively listen and participate in conversation, how to speak up, how to boost your confidence, and how to be an effective communicator across all types of speech acts, communication events, communication contexts. So if you want to know more and you want to follow the work that I publish on LinkedIn, there's a link for you right there. You can also just type in Mary Daphne and I'll pop right up. Okay, so now that we've got housekeeping out of the way, I want to ask you, in your opinion, which of these 3 is the hardest part of being honest in communication? So in the chat, I want you to drop either a 1, a 2, or a 3. So for example, saying something difficult without hurting people's feelings, or being honest with, with people when you're afraid of there being tension or conflict, or 3, finding the right words to explain clearly. Now, all 3 of these might resonate with you in terms of, difficulty in being honest and transparent in conversation. But what stands out as the most challenging for you in regard to these 3 questions? So drop it in the chat. Hello, Carolina. Good morning. All right, let's see. We have some people. Sorry, my microphone's in my way. Most challenging, number 3, says Carolina. Mireya says number 1. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so finding the right words to explain something. Saying something, that's difficult, maybe hard to hear, maybe it's feedback, maybe it's something else where you're kind of walking on eggshells. You don't want to rock the boat or stir the pot, so to speak. So absolutely, yeah. Okay, right. There's no right answer, essentially. I mean, all of these are hard, but it's good to kind of get into the frame of mind of what might be the most challenging so that you can, the strategies that I'm going to give you, keep in mind your response here, okay? Meanwhile, it's going to have these strategies that I'm going to share with you are going to help with all of these. So that's good news. All right, now I'd like for you to think about some reflect on some social interactions at work or just, in general. Has someone ever been honest with you in a way that made you trust them even more? Because they were so honest with you, somehow you trusted them more. Does anybody have a story that they would like to share or an example? Or if you don't feel like sharing it with the group, that's fine too. Then I would encourage you to just, write it down. Maybe you have a notebook next to you, or maybe you're on your computer and you have a Word doc open. Write it down. It's really important to reflect, right? We talk a lot about not just interpersonal communication we do between one or more people, right? But also the inner dialogue that we have with ourselves, which contributes to mindset and confidence, which is why it is paramount. It is of the utmost importance to ask yourself and reflect and take time to introspect and have that intrapersonal communication on point, right? So, has someone ever been honest with you in a way that made you trust them even more? Okay, so Mireya, I'm going to share your answer if you don't mind. Yes, as a new nurse, I'll never forget the feedback I received from my preceptor. Yes, I know that you've been in the field of nursing for quite some time now, so it's great that you remember that experience from those years past, where being in a new field or doing something new, right, you might be wondering about the feedback somebody gave you, but through that honesty in the feedback, you probably trusted that individual more, even if it wasn't necessarily the feedback that you were expecting or that you wanted to hear, right? So this is an excellent example. Thank you for sharing that, Mireya. It's just remarkable how when you encounter truly honest people, we just trust them innately even more, right? So it's really, and you could be that person for somebody else, which is a really amazing thing if you think about it. So not only do we want to take these strategies and pick up on them as something that we can seek out in others, but also to find in ourselves and nurture that in ourselves. So, okay, let's look at, why it's so important to trust people in professional relationships. Everything is built on trust, if you think about it, right? It's the cornerstone of any type of relationship, be it personal, social, professional, right? Collaboration, being open in terms of your having open dialogue, mutual respect. These are all things that can be that are possible through honest and open communication. Okay, let me bring my microphone a little closer. There we are. That's better. All right. Increase productivity too, right? The more you trust people and the more they trust you, the better you're going to work with people. The more collaboration you'll have, the more camaraderie there's going to be, the more rapport you're going to build with people, right? And that can lead to increased creativity, increased productivity, boosting morale, which are all really important things if you think about a professional context, a team building activity, being able to work on a team well, right? So these are important things. Okay, so let's look at the first strategy, communicating with transparency and with authenticity. So the first thing I want you to think about is being upfront, right? There's nothing wrong with being upfront. Now, of course, some cultures treat direct communication and indirect communication differently, but depending on the culture that you find yourself in, I want you to be upfront, right? Clearly expressing your thought with the intention of sharing your honest feedback, your honest thoughts, your honest insights, right? Even when you are in the midst of a tense or challenging topic or situation. Okay, people are going to respect you so much more if you're able to be upfront. Embrace the honesty, right? Don't beat around the bush. Don't sugarcoat something. Don't, mislead somebody or kind of lead them on and then completely do a 180 switch on them. Because honesty is what helps build your credibility, build trust, foster respect. So these are very important for the longevity of a working relationship or a business partnership or a client relations type of situation, right? And then, of course, be genuine. Make sure that your personality comes through. We all have our own personalities, and you can show your personality in a professional setting, right? You don't have to be robotic and, devoid of personality. Absolutely not. Just remember that authenticity builds rapport, right? And it really does strengthen ties at work and in life. So some sample phrasing that you could use, and feel free to write this one down. I understand your concern. Let me explain further, right? So you're giving yourself a chance. You're essentially having them give you the benefit of the doubt that you're going to explain something, that it's a negotiation. It's up for discussion, right? So you clarify a situation, right? I understand your concern. Let me explain further how this decision was made and how it actually benefits everybody. Okay, so that there's not this kind of discrepancy or people kind of resent your decision, maybe. Also, addressing a misunderstanding. Maybe there was a misunderstanding and you need to point out the elephant in the room, the pink elephant in the room, right? So I understand you're frustrated. I understand you're upset. Let me clarify that my intention was not to disrespect you. It was simply a misunderstanding, right? If you say that in a heartfelt way, that's going to resonate with people and they're going to trust you all the more. So something as simple as, I understand your concern. I understand where you're coming from. Just give me a moment to explain myself. Give me a minute to explain my intention behind this decision. And be honest. Number 2, practice active listening and empathy. Of course, these two go hand in hand. Just like communication, we can't have the speaking element divorced from the listening component, right? They're married. They're in a symbiotic relationship. So pay attention, right? Really focus on the speaker's words. You are constantly getting feedback in social interaction. So what is not being said? What can you read between the lines? What can you infer? What can you insinuate? Right? Really think about, how are the people saying what they're saying? Okay. What is not being said? What is being said and what's not being said? What can you infer? So you really also want to make sure that you're showing genuine interest so that the people feel comfortable with you. And that's going to create more and more honesty and trust between the two of you. You want to empathize, right? Try to put yourself in their shoes. So much easier said than done. We know that. But with practice, this can become just like anything, right? This is also a muscle. Social skills are a muscle. Active listening is a muscle, right? We have to use it. Otherwise, it atrophies. And we don't want that to happen. So just try to understand where they're coming from. And if you really don't get it, ask them, I'm having a really hard time understanding your perspective. Can you walk me through your thinking here? Can you walk me through your logic? Okay, they'll respect that. They'll respect you for voicing those concerns, for, bringing it to their attention that it was not clear. Maybe it has nothing to do with you. Maybe you were actively listening. Maybe you were fully engaged, fully paying attention, but for one reason or the other, they weren't conveying the information as best they could. And even if you don't agree with them, you really want to seek the empathy in the conversation on your part, right? And they're going to pick up on that, and then they will show you that same respect and that same empathy in that interaction and in future ones. Reflecting and summarizing as we go is also really important. It does a lot of different things. It helps solidify the information so that as you're processing it, it can become even clearer to you, and you really actually, you're able to kind of even make a mind map of it in situ, like during the conversation. And then, it shows it demonstrates you're actively listening, which is a big deal, because I can't tell you the number of people, I mean, you probably encountered this in your own line of work, in your own conversations with people. Most people are really not good at listening, right? They're not. To the point where where you notice who's a good listener, right? The fact that so many people don't know how to listen and do active listening is testament to the fact that it's something people really need to work on. We have a phenomenal active listening challenge course in our community. I know Mireya, who's on this call, took that course, and I know that you loved it, Mireya, so it's great to see you here. But, it's something that is so overlooked and not paid enough attention to, yet it is so integral to our social interaction. Yeah. Mireya says, absolutely, something I learned about in this community. Very helpful indeed. So that active listening course is going to be great for you, for anyone really who's really serious about improving listening skills. And there's strategies in there that, you definitely, you haven't thought about, different perspectives too. So something to consider. Okay, so for sample phrasing, you might say, I hear your perspective. Help me understand more. Okay, so again, you're not fully committing to understanding it right off the bat. You're putting it out there. You're putting feelers out there, inviting discussion, inviting conversation for people to say, okay, this is what I mean. Or, another angle could be this. So really seeking that clarification. I hear what you're saying, but just give me a little bit more here. Give me some examples. Do you have any case studies? Do you have any data to support your claims? What brought you to, this conclusion? Right? And then how they relate to the project too, especially if you're in your work setting, right? You always want to tie it back to sort of the bigger picture at play. And then encouraging this openness is also very important, right? If we're talking about honest communication, of course, we're talking about transparent, open dialogue between all parties involved. So I hear that you're feeling overwhelmed, right? You can tell from their voice, from their tone, from their nonverbals, from their paralinguistics, from their body language, from everything in between. So you say that, right? It gives them some validation. Like they're like, oh, okay. They've noticed. Okay. This is not just my burden to carry anymore, right? Then you say, help me to understand more about what specific tasks are causing you stress. How can I help you? Tell me what might be of help to you. How might I support you in this? Do you need somebody to review before you submit your work? Do you need some, more frequent touch points? Do you need an accountability partner? Do you need somebody to provide feedback along the way? Do you need somebody to just sit down and lend a listening ear? What is it, right? Don't assume anything. Give them, the floor, so to speak, to tell you what they need. Okay? And simply just offering, so validating and then offering is already so much more than anyone can ask for. Number 3, when issues arise, you want to address them head on, but in a tactful way, right? We want to be nuanced about it. We want to be subtle about it. We're suave communicators. We're savvy communicators. There's an ancient Greek word that's called kairos. Different pronunciation in Greek, but in English, kairos. That's all about timing, right? Timing is so important. Think about conversations you've had where the timing was off. You brought up a topic, a sensitive topic maybe, and it pushed somebody's buttons in a way that engendered a really negative response or not the response you were hoping for. It's not necessarily what you said or how you said it. It could be the timing. It just wasn't the right time. Guess what? Active listening prevents you from being oblivious to the right time. Okay. So, especially with issues or sensitive topics or feedback that's not going to be maybe that well received, but you still have to give it, find a private and appropriate setting to address the issue head on, right? You don't want to call somebody out in a scrum meeting or in a weekly department meeting in front of everybody and point out issues, right? That's not tactful. You also want to do it in a neutral space. Okay, so think about the setting. So timing, kairos, very important. You want to be direct, but you also want to be respectful, right? Assert yourself, be direct, articulate your concerns clearly, but always be respectful, be professional, right? This is a professional setting. And make sure that you don't lose sight of the human behind the problem, right? Don't lose sight of the fact that you're talking to a human who has feelings, who has problems, who has a life outside of work, right? Who might be going through something unbeknownst to you. Just assume that, you know, everyone's dealing with something, whether they show it or not, right? So if you go in with that mindset, it makes you respect the person that much more. And then always focus on solutions rather than the problem. I don't know if this is a quote my dad kind of came up with just growing up. Whenever, we would complain about something as kids, teens, whatever, do, right? He'd always say, focus on the donut, not the hole, right? Focus on the solution. Focus on the donut. Look at how much donut you're getting, not the hole that you're not getting, right? Don't focus on the problem. Focus on the solution. Find a solution together. Be open to creatively coming up with a solution. So important. It's a game changer for not just how the conversation goes, but also the relationship you build. Solving a problem can bring people together. Even the worst of enemies, even with your arch nemesis. Right? Yeah, 100% thumbs up from Rodea, right? Yeah, that's just human nature. It's how it works. Okay, great. So I want to discuss a concern I have, if that's okay. Okay. I want to discuss a concern I have about the recent project timeline, if that's okay, right? If you don't mind, if you have 5 minutes, right? Kind of like smoothing the edges out. Requesting feedback. I want to discuss some feedback I received about the presentation. Would you be open for a quick chat? Would you be open to having, a coffee and talking a little bit about this? Okay, you're telling them what you need. And then collaboration, right? I want to discuss or run some ideas by you that I have for improving our teamwork. Would you be open to brainstorming? Would you be willing to sit down with me and my team for 30 minutes over lunch? My treat, right? I want to discuss a concern I have, if that's okay, right? If that's okay, you can, I gave a few different examples of how you can say that, but you want to soften it a bit, right? If you have time, if you're open to it, if you're not too busy today, if you're amenable to this, if you have, 5 minutes, because it gives them some agency, right? It gives them agency. All right. Key strategy 4, follow up and deliver on commitments. Be realistic, firstly, about what you're committing to. Only commit to what you can actually deliver, right? Don't overpromise and then underdeliver. Underpromise and then overdeliver. Such a huge difference there. Communicate your progress, right? Especially with key stakeholders. key parties involved, decision makers, right? The big cheese, the head honcho. You really want to keep them abreast of the progress of your work, of any potential challenges or roadblocks, deliverable timing, things like that, right? That's so important. You don't want to leave people in the lurch. You don't want to leave people in the dark. Even if everything's running smoothly, communicate that, relay that information to people, okay? And then always follow through, which is why, number one, setting realistic expectations is so important, right? Because it's so much harder to follow through on promises that are unrealistic, right? Maybe you've been there and done that, and you have that experience. Look, that's great experience to have. Now you know what you need to do, right? So have a proven track record of your reliability and of your commitment. It just increases your professionalism that much more. It asserts you as, somebody who knows what they're doing, who is open to the changing tides and able to navigate harsh seas. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to circle back on, okay? So check in. I want to circle back on this. I want to revisit this topic. I want to know what's going on with this progress report. How are things going? Okay, and then we want to follow up. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to circle back on the budget proposal. Have you had a chance to review it? Okay. Admit mistakes and also own up to any shortcomings. This is a sign of a good leader, right? So be upfront, right? Acknowledge any mistakes openly, honestly. We're human, right? We're not robots. We're not expected to be perfect all the time or perfect at all, really. Okay. You have high standards. That's good. That's important. But you also admit to mistakes when they happen. You have that accountability. You take accountability for your actions. So that brings us to this, which is responsibility, right? So owning up to errors, taking responsibility for the consequences, avoid blame. Don't get involved in the you did this, you did that. It's we language, collaborative language. And then always thinking about, okay, how is this a teachable moment? What's the silver lining here? What have I learned from this? And even if it all kind of crumbles before you, take solace, take comfort in knowing that that is going to be an instrumental lesson for the rest of your life that you'll never, ever forget, and that you might even write a book about one day. Okay? So there's no such thing as failure. There's just failing to grow, right? Failing to learn from past mistakes. So this is a great demonstration of your commitment to growth and learning. I made an error and I want to take full responsibility for it. Okay. Maybe you were somebody, you spearheaded a project, you led a team. Maybe your team members made some mistakes. You're going to take the responsibility for that, right? Otherwise, it's like a captain abandoning ship. Not cool. We don't want that vibe. That's not a good look. So look, I'm in charge of this team. I take full responsibility for that mistake, that error. Okay, holding yourself accountable. So the way we're going to foster trust is through consistency. Consistency in your honest, transparent, authentic communication. And it's going to take time. It's going to take some, finagling. It's going to take some cognizance about it, right? You don't just walk in thinking, okay, I'm going to make everyone trust me. I'm going to be this authentic leader. There are very few people who are like that, right? We have to learn a lot of these skills, and that's okay, because the more awareness you have, the more self-awareness, the better you're going to be at doing this, right? The people who are just these innate, amazing communicators don't even really pick up on what they're doing. So you ask them, oh, how are you so amazing in that? They won't know. They might not have that self-awareness. And you'll have so much more potential to grow into a role when you're self-aware about your communication, the way you what you're saying resonates with people, how open and honest you are, and so forth. And so when you implement these strategies and you take the key phrasings and you try them out for size in your social interactions, be them in the community or in life, out there in the big, wide, bright world, you'll get better at this, right? It's going to lead to closer connections, better social engagement, social interaction, more productive environments, more productive conversations. So certainly something to keep in mind, but don't have this expectation where just it's going to be coming like this to you right off the bat. It takes practice. Just like when we go to the gym and we want to improve our VO2 max and our cardiorespiratory fitness and our muscular skeletal health, it's going to take time. We can't expect to get all the gains in just one training session. It doesn't work that way. Maybe humans will figure that out, years from now, who knows? But right now, this is the, human predicament, human situation. All right. So the mission that I'm giving you this week, should you choose to accept it, is it's a challenge, right? For this week. I want you, here, let's go one by one. I like that better. I want you to identify one professional conversation where transparency could improve outcomes. And then I want you to act on it. Okay? Act on it, my friends. Can you see that? There we go. There we go. That's better. Okay. So, for example, you want to discuss, maybe career goals with your manager, with your boss, with a key stakeholder. You feel stuck and you really haven't, it's no one's fault but your own because you haven't expressed your aspirations clearly enough. So share your career goals, be open and honest and transparent about it with your manager, because that can create opportunities for growth within the company, within the industry, for trying something new, for taking on a stretch project, and so on and so forth. And suddenly the world opens up, doors open, new opportunities arise, new partnerships, maybe a side hustle. Pretty cool things can happen. And then another example would be, clarifying expectations that you have on a team project, right? Maybe you're leading a team, right? You're spearheading a project and your team is not really that clear about individual roles, and individual roles aren't messy, and it's causing inefficiencies and lots of overlap. And again, the roles aren't messy. So you want to initiate a conversation to clarify responsibilities and foster better collaboration. So these are just two examples in the professional space. You can just as easily think about it for your social interactions in, social contexts outside of work as well. But this is your mission this week. And then I want you to come back into the community under daily practice and share it in the forum for feedback. So if you want the replay of this, my microphone's flying about. The replay of the session, you want a detailed strategy guide so you can take these strategies wherever you go and have them just easily accessible to you. An interactive quiz so that you can really feel solid in your learning, and personalized feedback based on this challenge, this mission, and any other, questions, insights that arise. Then your next step is to join us in our paid community. I will put a link right now in the chat for those of you who are interested and who are not yet part of our team. And in addition to all of that, you also get, where's my chat? You also get, hold on guys, there we are. You also get all the challenges, the courses. We have a 33 module executive excellence course where you get a certificate as well. And you can publish that on LinkedIn. You can show your employer. It's a big deal course. Different courses, different challenges, hundreds of replays of lessons and workshops that aren't exclusively here. They're not anywhere else. They're not on YouTube. They're not on Spotify. So there's just tons and tons of content, and not to mention the ability to actually connect with members and create your own calls in our social pod space, where you can set up a Zoom call, a Google Meet, whatever time zone you're in, connect with people, make friends, network, practice these skills, work on your communication outside of everything else that I give you here in the community. So it's a really cool kind of way to have fun learning, but also develop your professional skills and your social fluency and boost your confidence at the same time. And I really hope that you enjoyed it. I'm really proud of you for showing up here, for, carving out time this morning or this afternoon, whatever time of day or night it is for you. So yes. So Medea says there are great resources for all types of learners in the community. Yeah, absolutely. So true. I'm so glad, Medea joined us for this call, as well as all of you. Medea has been through our program, so you can definitely, I'm sure she'd be happy to share her thoughts about it if you were to reach out to her in the community. But yes, you're welcome, Andres. You're welcome. Thank you for this amazing session. You're so welcome. Carolina, extremely meaningful and adding value to the plan. I love it. You are so welcome. I know Andres had a question or an insight. Let's read it. So when someone at work tells me about their emotions and how they feel working there, this simple thing allows me to connect more with this person. Yes, absolutely. Because sometimes we're afraid of saying something bad about our work. That's true, right? Negative feedback or just any type of negativity. We want to balance it, right? We don't want to just be like a negative Nancy or a Debbie Downer, right? But we also want to, temper those kind of feelings and expectations, but also remain honest and be honest. And it brings us closer to people. So that's a great example. All right, my friends, thank you so much again. I will see you soon and have a wonderful rest of your day and keep on investing in yourself. Let's make social fluency your superpower. All right. Thank you. You can drop the extra questions that you might have in the daily practice forum. I read every single one of them and I get back to you. All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Take care.